Welcome to our continuing series, Ask the Mayor. A prominent Vernon businessman for 20 years, Akbal Mund became Vernon's mayor in 2014 without ever having been on City Council. He was named the JCI Vernon Good Citizen of the Year in 2012, was president of the Greater Vernon Winter Games also in 2012, and is the co-founder of Wendy's Dream Lift Day. He moved to Vernon in 1993 and lives in the community with his wife and 2 daughters.
Welcome to our Ask the Mayor, our series of interviews with local Valley mayors, and we're pleased today to have joining us Vernon Mayor Akbal Mund. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Let's get into some questions right away. The first thing is, I guess, what excites you about being the mayor of Vernon?
Well, I think what excites me the most is I get to learn how the process works at City Hall. I get to work with a group of council who all have different passions and desires they'd like to see, and that makes it exciting for me. So I enjoy that part the most.
Has there been a big surprise for you in this job in 2015, and maybe looking forward to this year as well?
You know, I think what surprises me the most is we hear a lot of people always say that there's no one at City Hall who knows what they're doing, but I'm quite impressed with the staff we have and the knowledge that they carry, and how they try to, educate myself and the rest of council on what actually exists out there rather than taking guesses. So they're very knowledgeable staff. So we're lucky in the city of Vernon to have such great staff.
Has it been a big transition for you to go straight into the mayor's chair without being as a councillor?
It is a learning experience. There's, people ask me what was the hardest thing. I think the reading part. You probably read 1,000 pages a week, and
Homework.
It's like you're making decisions on people's lives and livelihoods. So you want to make sure you read the information, right? So that's probably the hardest part of being a mayor. But you know what? At the same time, you're learning when you're reading. So I don't have a problem with that.
Is popularity important to you at all?
No, I was pretty popular before I became mayor. I'm probably less popular now, but that's okay.
Yeah. How about your family life? Talk about that with the transition to this seat.
Well, as we all know, mayor gets invited to just about every function you could ever think of. I try to, acknowledge most of the people, but in groups. But sometimes you can't do it, the kids are always. Dad, you want to come to this? And yeah, okay, so I sneak it in. I was pretty involved in the community before I became mayor, so I had a pretty active life in that sense, so I still continue that, but at the same time now I try to look and say, okay, you know what, this is more important because the kids want to do this, so we'll do that.
Are you able to use skills that you learned in the restaurant business to apply to what you're doing now?
Yeah, you can, because some of the things are you want to treat people as you would like to be treated, and treat everybody the same. And sometimes people will come to you and ask for something, and you go, well, can I give them this and set a precedent, or do I need to look at this situation and go, no, it's got to be treated as we've treated others before. Now, if we have to go back and say maybe we need to change a bylaw or something because times have changed, we'll do that.
Do you consider yourself an approachable mayor to the citizens?
Yeah, I think I'm very approachable, whether it's by phone or people just sometimes dropping by the office. I'm not doing anything. As a matter of fact, I took somebody today just before I came here, and I said, you know what, I got 10 minutes, sure. Let them in the office. They wanted to talk, great. So I don't mind doing that. I was in the restaurant business, so you had to deal with the general public, so I'm used to talking to people.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll take a short break and come back and get into a little more of the issues, from potholes to taxes, with Vernon Mayor Akbal Mund. Welcome back to Ask the Mayor with Vernon Mayor Akbal Mund, and we put out via social media the opportunity for viewers to ask questions. We also had a volunteer that had some input helping us out with this, and here's some of the questions that came from some of our Vernon viewers. From an anonymous longtime Vernon resident, what do you plan to do to encourage and attract business community office space in Vernon as opposed to, say, the more expensive Kelowna market?
Well, it's, we have Interior Health is now building right downtown, and they're forever going to change the landscape of the downtown because they're building a 6-story tower, which is going to be our highest tower, then an 8, and then a 10. Okay. And I think what developers need to see is Vernon's going to become the place that more development and cheaper development than Kelowna is going to occur. We've been working with different development companies. Our team, our real estate team, has been doing a good job. I can see in the future, within the next few years, people moving downtown and bringing some of these businesses down there.
Is that the goal, is to go up?
The goal is to go up. Density is always nice because it saves money in infrastructure costs.
For sure, yeah. Now also another anonymous viewer, what are your plans to encourage affordable housing for developers as well as the nonprofit sector?
Well, we just attended Silga this past week here. Vernon put through a resolution to the federal and provincial governments that will go to UBCM to encourage them to participate. There's been a lot of downloading over the past few years for municipalities to look after everything. We just don't have the money. Yeah. And, we have a great social network within our community that helps out, social planning group, and they do a great job. But you know what? There's only so many resources that we have that we can help out. And we have over 900 units coming up within the city of Vernon, and some of those units are going to be affordable housing. And that's what we need to do if we're going to not only attract people, but keep people in your community. Because it's becoming more of a retirement area for people out of Vancouver, where the housing market has become so extreme that people say, I'll sell and go up to the Okanagan. It's a nice place to live.
Are you seeing that now? The Vancouver housing market, typically when it does well like that, Kelowna, for example, benefits Vancouver Island, the Fraser Valley. Are you seeing that in Vernon?
What we're hearing from our real estate people is that a lot of people from Vancouver are moving up here.
Yeah. So that's going to have a big impact on demand anyways.
On demand, yes. And I've just noticed driving my street, I think for the first time we have probably 45 houses on the street that there's not one for sale.
Okay.
So you see that.
Now, do you have any plans to create a cultural district in downtown Vernon? That's another question from a viewer.
Well, through the regional district, we've just passed our cultural plan, and what we're looking at is let's find a cultural, not just an art gallery, but a cultural center where we have an art gallery, we have performing centers, and where that's going to go will be decided as a regional district rather than just the city of Vernon.
And what are you hearing from when you talk to citizens? Is it potholes and taxes? I know recently it's been a little bit about skateboarding. Let's talk about the kinds of things that you hear from citizens.
Well, it depends on what the topic of the day is. I mean, we're running through the airport expansion plan, our master airport plan, and we had a lot of people complaining that we shouldn't be extending the runway. Mm-hmm. So that was a hot topic for a while. Of course, Stickle Road. We wanted to put a light at Stickle Road, but we're still waiting for that to come aboard with the Ministry of Transportation. You said potholes. We get a few complaints, but the city staff are really good. Somebody reports a pothole, they'll be out there within a week to fix it. Yeah. That's not that big of a deal in our community, but skateboards, there's another one. Somebody was talking about having a greener mode of transportation, and is it? Yes, it is. If you don't bring vehicles downtown, because people complain about there's not enough parking downtown, well, why not then allow them to skateboard?
Yeah, so. Have everybody on a skateboard or a hoverboard? Is that the?
Well, I don't know if we'll get hoverboards. They're kind of, I think, a little more dangerous. But the skateboards,
Are you for that? Are you for having skateboards?
I would be for changing our bylaw about having skateboards downtown, because I don't see it as that much of a, I think people are concerned that some of the seniors maybe bump at the sidewalks. They're not small sidewalks, they're a little bit wider than they used to be. So, I don't see any harm in it. Does that mean there's going to be never an accident? No. I mean, you have to look at the facts. There could be, but, people are held accountable, just like when you're driving in the street. If we have an accident, should we say, okay, we're going to stop
bad cars
from driving? Yeah, it just, you have to look at the long term. If people want to skateboard and the younger generation likes to do that, guess what? That may be their mode of transportation.
Yeah. All right, thanks. We'll take another short break, and then coming up after that, we'll get a little bit more in depth into the economy. And one of those topics, of course, is affordable housing. Welcome back to Ask the Mayor. Joining us is Vernon Mayor Akbal Mund, and let's get a little bit into the economics of Vernon's situation and start with affordable housing. Can the average guy, Joe, Jill, afford to live in Vernon?
The average guy probably could afford to live in Vernon. Right now, there's a low inventory of housing and rental housing, but since this council's been in, we've addressed that, and in the queue right now, we have 900 units being developed. Mm-hmm. So, you just can't, sometimes people think it's going to happen overnight. It doesn't. You have to get the developers interested. You have to show that there's a need for that type of housing. And once you do, then as you get people coming to City Hall and asking for the little variances that they want on some of these projects, the city looks at it and goes, will it be a good fit? And yeah, so I think within the next couple of years here, you're going to see a lot of major developments, and people are going to go, okay, we actually can find a place we can stay.
Demand is probably still going to be there. With what we mentioned earlier, people from Vancouver selling out, the interest rates are low, it's a nice place to live. Is there a long-term plan for the City of Vernon to address affordability?
Well, again, we brought a resolution forward at SILGA, as I said, to address the affordable housing crisis that exists actually everywhere. Fortunately, Vernon is a smaller community than Kelowna or Kamloops, that we don't get to apply for the grants that those communities do. And if I think long term, I want to keep the secret quiet that yes, let's keep Vernon a little bit small, because I mean, when I first moved up here back in '93. Kelowna didn't have that many people either. So, you can grow. It depends on how fast and how far you want to grow. So, our growth was great. Over last year, we were said that we were one of the top 5 growing communities in terms of population base in the province, of over 25,000. So, we are a growing community. We had our second busiest commercial development year in terms of permits as well, too. So, as much as people may not think that people want to come to Vernon and live there, it's the stats are proving different. So,
how does the city balance the needs of the business community that wants to develop and grow with the average citizen?
Well, we have areas within our community in the downtown core that the businesses can develop. Our residential, especially when you think of Predator Ridge or Turtle Mountain and the foothills areas, they're 5-10 minutes out of town, and they seem like a long way for a lot of people, but 10 minutes is not. And those are our major development areas for residential housing right now, and those are the communities where people want to go.
How do you get to full employment or close to full employment? Is that an issue for you, and how do you facilitate something like that as a mayor?
Well, it's funny, times are changing. Full employment, you don't really know how to gauge it now, because a lot of people work from home. And the tech market is growing. And, you could be working, I know people who work for people in New York from Vernon. And I think about that, and well, I have to travel 5-6 times a year, but most of the time I'm sitting at home making the calls and, on my computer, and I'm like, wow, so times are changing a little bit. It's not like the regular back 20-30 years ago where you went into work and then left, you worked your 8 to 5 or whatever it was, and had to. So there is times have changed for a lot, especially a lot of the big business, not restaurants per se, because you got to be there and serve or whatever, but times are changing.
And you're probably seeing, as well as like Kelowna has, a lot of your residents were probably working in the oil fields in Alberta, and now you're feeling a bit of a pinch there.
There have been residents we know have come back from Alberta, right? But every market goes up and down over, so is it recovering slowly? But we'll see what it's like a couple of years from now. I think you'll recover, and then you'll see Alberta, hit it off again.
We've seen this issue in Kelowna with the city's looking to attract younger workers. Is that a goal for Vernon as well?
Yeah, Vernon's got, we have a nice tech industry there. People don't know about it. It's well hidden, but there's a big group there. Younger workers, a lot of them are opening up their own businesses now, and they see value in that. So, that's great for our community, because as we grow and people that have their own business, it's, they'll be able to stay in Vernon and keep their kids in Vernon.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about homelessness. That's an issue in Vernon, as it is in most cities. Aggressive panhandling was an issue at some point last year. Is that still a problem, do you think?
It's always going to be a problem. I guess, when it was first brought out, what is aggressive panhandling? If somebody asking me for money is not aggressive, but somebody who's 80 and a female, it would be considered as aggressive. So, I think it was blown out of proportion when it was said there was a lot of aggressive panhandling. The Human Rights Commission, as it just demonstrated with Vancouver, the people have a right to make a living. And it's very hard for us to tell people you can't do what they're doing, as long, in certain areas, because it's legal to do. It's their right to do it. So, and a lot of the general public don't understand that. When I was growing up, I was 16 my first time down to San Francisco. And that's when I first encountered homelessness. And it's nothing like we have here, nothing like it was in Vancouver. It was far worse. And I think I've grown accustomed to, okay, all they're doing is asking. Very rarely was anybody yelling and screaming and saying, "Give me money." So that, to me, that's aggressive panhandling.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between what is aggressive panhandling viewed by different people.
Now, the Upper Room Mission was just recently denied a gaming grant. Is that a concern for you? Do you think they could come back and?
Definitely a concern, but they can appeal it. So it doesn't mean that they haven't received that grant yet. Hopefully, during the appeal process, that they'll ask the levels of government for their opinion on the organization, and we'll gladly step up for the organization and say that we think they deserve the grant.
Do mayors get together, they say the Union of BC Municipalities, for example, looking for a concerted effort from the province or the federal government, now that we have a new government in Ottawa, to develop a plan to address homelessness?
Well, the federal government always says there's a plan. And then, there's municipal government, then there's a provincial government. There's everything usually gets dumped on the municipal government to look after everything.
Right.
And yes, as a group, and especially in the southern interior, all the mayors get together once a quarter to talk about issues that we have in our communities. And, affordable housing is one of them, and how we can best address that. And as I said, we addressed it at SILGA, and we're bringing forward that motion at UBCM.
All right, thanks. We'll take another short break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about infrastructure and transit. Welcome back to Ask the Mayor in our series of talking to mayors in the Valley. And joining us today is Vernon Mayor Akbal Mund. Let's get into it a little bit about transit. What are the plans for the City of Vernon for, say, the next 10 or even 20 years?
We just finished our master transportation plan last year. A lot of those issues will be addressed in there. I've been asked about, one of the big issues was bypass, right? And when we're going to put a bypass in. But, there's stats out there that will tell you that 94% of the traffic that enters the Okanagan stays in the Okanagan.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking at a bypass through Vernon, $400 or $500 million, right? For 8% of the traffic or 6% of the traffic. Does that make sense? I don't know. To me, as a business person, it wouldn't make any sense at all. Yeah. And why would you put a bypass in?
So
right?
You don't support it then?
I would not support it this time. You don't want to tie up land, and we need some collaboration between the Ministry of Transportation, because a lot of this bypass would not be in the city of Vernon.
No, the outskirts, I guess.
It would be the outskirts of the community. So therefore, do you want residents of Vernon tying up land or spending money for something that may not even be in Vernon? So you got to be cognizant of that fact.
Is there a way to speed up or smooth traffic through the city if people are in fact going to Kamloops or Armstrong?
There is, and it was addressed in the master transportation plan. And one of the things that we were thinking about was putting no left-hand turns on the highway through the town, right? Because that definitely ties up traffic, and people that had to turn right, that's what they have to do. And most of the traffic there is local, so you know what? They know how to get to where they want to go.
Let's switch it up a little bit and go to the air. Let's talk about the Vernon Regional Airport and the status on that.
Well, recently the airport master airport plan came into effect, and we passed it without a runway extension. The extension was obviously going to cost us $5 million or more to put in the extra 400 feet, and we as council decided not to do that.
In the future, perhaps?
No, this was going to be it. It's either a nay or a yay right here.
Okay.
In the future, it won't matter. We won't be doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're out. What about the most significant project underway in Vernon right now? What do you see as the most significant infrastructure
It's the hamlets. It's the right downtown, the interior health care centers that are going up downtown. There are 3 towers. That's by far one of our biggest developments. We also have the Regency, which is going in behind Walmart, 150 senior care unit. We also have NNT Properties, 85 rental units going up at the old Cal Tire site on 48th. So we have some big projects in the works right now, and we're excited about that.
We've heard talk about Cal Tire Place, the expansion of that. Are you in favor of that?
Well, that right now is it should be just ending the RFP on who's going to win the bid for that, and yeah, it'd be exciting because I've been playing sports and being in sports all my life. I know that when you have a twin facility in the same area, you get more people into your community. And you know, I've done the math over the years, and when a team of 16 kids comes in, it probably brings at least 10 parents. Mm-hmm. So you got, let's say, you know, for math's sake, you got 25 people coming into your community. They got to eat, they got to stay, and you know, you can hold bigger tournaments. That's a lot of money that gets dropped. Probably could, you know, if you look at a team, probably about $3,000-4,000 per team that comes in, yeah. And that's important. I mean, you look at Kamloops, and you know them
tournament capital of the world or something, or Canada.
Of Canada, right?
Yeah.
And they used to be just tournament capital BC to begin with, but
yeah.
you know, they've done a very good job. The city works with Parks and Recs, and you know, every facility they build now, they build Olympic size. Because they've already attracted every other tournament they want. Now they're going after the bigger tournaments, and they just had the World Cup of Hockey, Women's World Cup there. So they've done a very good job. And is Vernon going to be like that? No, but we can attract all the little players that want to come. Because, you know, a lot of team sports out there for kids, they got to go somewhere. Hey, let's bring them to Vernon. I think Vernon's the best community in Okanagan to live in. We're 20 minutes from a ski hill, 10 minutes from 2 major lakes, you know, 10 minutes from 3 major golf courses. And I go, okay, you know what? I can work half a day if I wanted to and go do something else. Yeah, so, yeah. You know, a lot of other communities out here, you can't, because only because the ski hill's a little bit further away.
Yeah, yeah. So. Is there a project that you, as a mayor, would say absolutely not under my watch kind of thing? Is there something out there like that?
You know what? It depends on the project. Nothing's come across my desk. I would say definitely not. We're going to do that. Well, I mean, the airport expansion, I guess you could say. You know, for the $5 million, it didn't make any economic sense. That we would never see a return on the money for that, right? Yeah. So that was kind of a no-brainer for me to go. Okay, you know what? Let's think about it. Is it going to work? No, it's not going to work. Not for that amount of money.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. We'll take one more short break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about some more projects in the city of Vernon. Welcome back to Ask the Mayor with Vernon Mayor Akbal Mund, and let's talk a little bit about the vacancy rate in downtown Vernon. Some people have complained to you, you suggested to me, there's a couple of buildings that are empty, but overall the vacancy rate is pretty low.
It's pretty low, it's at 6%, and down the business core itself is almost 8%, but you know, downtown is 6%. That's quite low when you compare it to other communities. So you know, sometimes we do have a larger building in the old liquidation world, and a lot of people you know, say, wow, there's a lot of empty space downtown. Well, it's a big building, of course, you know, it's empty space there, but until you can interest a person coming in to develop it, you know, we have to bide our time.
How about the need for a new art gallery? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the art gallery has been asking since, I believe, long before my time, about 2005, 2006. And, you know, it is very quiet, quaint, tucked under the parkade almost in Vernon there. We do need a new arts center, as we'd like to call it. And we recently passed the cultural plan at Ardino. So, you know, it's coming. Yeah. It just, we're now looking for where we want to put it and how, you know, who's going to, what's it going to look like.
What can you tell us about the negotiations on the kin track with the Equestrian Society?
Well, we've had some negotiations with the Equestrian Society, and you know, we'll continue to keep that between us, I guess you could say.
Fair enough.
Only because it does involve land dealing. So that's, you know, that's all I'll say on that one for now.
What would you like as mayor to see that space used for?
There's a lot of sports groups in our community who, you know, gymnastics needs a building. We have the mountain bike people who like to see a mountain bike skills park. We have, you know, people have suggested we need a new pool. You know, there's lots of room out there for a lot of these facilities. So, you know, I'd like to see a sports complex out there.
Okay, and one final question: the pace of growth in Vernon. Are you satisfied with that?
It's definitely, you know, as I mentioned earlier on, we're one of the top 5 growing communities, over 25,000 people. We had our second busiest year in terms of residential and economic development permits. So it's probably going a little faster than we'd like, but we can't complain. Everybody's happy. There's a lot of people who say business is up in our community. And if that's the case, if everybody seems to be smiling about the economic impact they're having, our hotels, our tourism, economic development, tourism has been doing a great job. Hotels have seen record numbers over the past year. So everything seems to be going okay.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Mayor Mund.
Thank you very much for having me.
And be sure, if you have questions for one of our mayors, be sure to send them to us. We'll get them to the mayor in question. And you can check those details out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Tim Morton. This has been Ask the Mayor.